Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for May 27, 2025. The Boeing Off the Hook edition. We begin with that story from the Wall Street Journal, which reports that the Department of Justice has completely caved into Boeing and will let them off the hook for their second DPA, or rather a violation of law, with a non-prosecution agreement. Yes, you heard that right. They're going to charge Boeing approximately $1.1 billion to avoid the trial for the latest 737 MAX crashes plus their conduct since that time. And they basically told the victims' rights groups to stick it and that they would not do anything that they wanted in terms of oversight or monitorship. There'll be no monitor appointed. And it shows exactly the values of this Department of Justice, and that the victims' right law will not be adhered to one iota. And as we reported last week, Boeing's singular innovation during this period of time has been to institute a hotline. So one might think they needed some oversight, but apparently this DOJ says no. Next up from The Independent, in an interview, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says that because Trump is the most transparent president, and as he engages in bribery in public, that transparency absolves him of everything. Yes, he said that Trump does everything out in the open. The corruption is really access to who can buy what, and includes pardons. But because it's in the open, it's not corruption. Singular logic from our beloved Speaker of the House. Next up from the New York Times, over in Germany, 4 former Volkswagen executives were found guilty of fraud charges for their role in the emissions cheating scandal that shook the auto industry a decade ago and hastened a shift from fossil fuel cars to battery-powered cars. The 4 executives held high-ranking positions at the car maker and were responsible for the engine technology. A panel of judges reached the verdict after a trial lasting more than 3 years. The reading of the sentences lasted almost 4 hours. So even though corruption is now not only tolerated, but apparently celebrated at the highest levels of the U.S. government, and Boeing gets off with a non-prosecution agreement with no monitor, apparently they take fraud somewhat more seriously in Germany. And finally, from Reuters, there's a new framework issued for tackling Scope 3 emissions. The Voluntary Carbon Markets Integrity Initiative has released Scope 3 Action Code of Practice, which provides guidance to companies on how best to reduce Scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 emissions, which are indirect greenhouse gas emissions that occur in a company's value chain, can account for a significant portion of the company's greenhouse gas emissions footprint and continue to grow rapidly on a global basis. So once again, even though this administration doesn't want to do anything to limit Scope 3 emissions, apparently there are groups who are concerned about it, and we expect that there will be more comment on this, particularly from the administration. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.